Jai Shankar. Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Sanat Pandit and I'll be your moderator for today's session. Before we start, I request the audience to please stay on mute and switch off their cameras during the presentation. If you have any queries, please do type them in the chat window. They'll be taken up at the end of the presentation. So let's start with the Sabha commencing prayers. दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ता स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशव वामन कृष्ण पाण्डुरङ्ग आनंद परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शंकर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। श्री भवानी शंकराय नमः। श्री मात्रे नमः। Welcome everybody to yet another session of Avkash. For those of you who are new to this, Avkash is a series of knowledge and skill sessions started by the Chitrapur Yuvadhara with blessings of Param Pujya Swamiji. Alright, so today's session is on ways to build immunity and improve lung capacity. We'll be taught techniques to reduce stress. We'll also be given some dietary suggestions and a lot more by none other than Dr. Urvi Mankekar. Just to tell a little bit about her, Dr. Urvi is from the Dadar Sabha. She's a talented physiotherapist who completed her bachelor's in physiotherapy from KJ Somaya College. And then she went on to pursue masters in advancing physiotherapy practice from Coventry University in UK. With a keen interest in neurological pediatric rehabilitation, she is attached with New Horizons Child Development Care. She is involved in treating children with neurological conditions such as autism spectrum disorders, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, as well as sensory impairments. Apart from this, Urvi is such a kind and genuine soul that I know. So without any further ado, let's call Urvi right away. Now over to you, Doctor.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Sanat. So today I will be talking about basically how to improve immunity and how to know what we are doing, whether we're doing things in the right way or not. Can someone tell me if I'm audible? Is it possible?
Yeah, you're audible.
I am, right? Okay.
Crystal clear.
So today I will be discussing with you all ways in which to improve your immunity, and that is a multifactorial process. So today I will take you along it and let you know that what all you exactly need to do for your immunity, and it does not just include taking vitamin C. So let's go ahead. Before I begin, so let's begin with the first thing. So a lot of people in my friend circle have asked me of late that what do physiotherapists exactly do? So I just thought that I'll initially just throw some light on the different aspects of physiotherapy because a lot of people have asked me this. So physiotherapy can be broadly categorized into 4 domains, that is musculoskeletal, neurological, cardiorespiratory, and community-based rehabilitation. as most of y'all must be knowing of musculoskeletal, in the sense if y'all have your basic low back pain, your neck pain, all these basic aches and pains which happen in day-to-day lives are dealt with ortho physiotherapists. So they deal with these sort of conditions where they will give you exercises to cure those particular problems. And they also see post-operative patients like total hip replacement, total knee replacement, etc. Then it also includes sports physiotherapy. So as far as I know, a lot of people are aware mainly only about this domain, but there are also various other domains like neurological, where it can be divided into adults and pediatrics. So adults deals with all these patients who have either had a stroke or patients having Parkinson's disease, anything affecting the nervous system like your brain and the spinal cord, like spinal cord problems like multiple sclerosis, etc. And pediatrics, as already mentioned, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism spectrum disorders, various other issues where children have problems dealing with their milestones. They can't achieve their milestones normally. So physios play a role in teaching that to the children. Next comes cardiorespiratory. So a part of it is what I'm doing with y'all today by teaching y'all certain ways how to improve your lung capacity. And this is also currently being done in all the hospitals where currently patients are admitted for respiratory problems, like mainly COVID at the moment, where physios are mainly working day and night to help out these patients in the hospitals. And lastly comes community-based rehabilitation. This is a relatively new field of physiotherapy, which involves various age groups of patients. So you have geriatrics, where physios are in charge of treating patients above 65 years of age. Women's health, which deals with giving exercises to pregnant ladies before, but like during their pregnancy as well as after their pregnancy, and various other conditions as well, like stress urinary incontinence, etc. And lastly, there's industrial physiotherapy, where nowadays physiotherapists are recruited by employers in order to minimize injuries that take place at the workplace and that the employees might experience at the workplace. So this was just a brief introduction to physiotherapy holistically, because a lot of people are unaware of these other aspects. So in case y'all feel that there's somebody in your family or around you who could benefit from one of these domain related physiotherapy, then you all could refer them to that. So now, moving on to the topic for today, which is immunity. So as a part of a community-based rehabilitation, we physiotherapists not only teach exercises that are to be done in the right way, but we also give advice to the patients depending on how they can lead a healthy lifestyle. Now that includes several things which I'll be educating you all also about today. So firstly, I will be giving you all tips on how to boost your immunity. And next, we will look at the breathing exercises to improve your lung capacity, as well as, since majority of y'all are working from home at the moment, I will also be giving y'all certain simple exercises that could help y'all right now when y'all are working from home. So coming to the topic, now that we've been in lockdown since the last 5 months, a lot of people have resumed going back to work as well because of unlock phase 3 that has happened. So I'm sure by now it is ingrained in our heads that we have to do these things outside the house, that is wearing a mask, washing hands and carrying a sanitizer, and social distancing. I'm sure by now all of us are so tired of listening to this because it's become a way of living. So I'm hoping that all of y'all are taking these proper precautions when y'all go outside the house. But what about our internal health? I think someone really needs to address this issue as well. So let's begin with this today. Now, when we talk about immunity, the only thing we've been hearing about mostly is consuming vitamin C every day in your diet. Now that is very important, no doubt. But apart from your dietary vitamin C intake as well, it is also very important to understand there are several multifactorial benefits of having a good immunity, multifactorial ways. So let's see what those are. So firstly, you have your proper diet and nutrition, then good sleeping habits, thirdly, some form of daily exercise, next is engaging in some form of hobby to keep your stress levels at a minimum, and lastly, either incorporating breathing exercises. So if some of you all might be doing pranayam, even that is really good to improve your breathing capacity, as well as meditation in your daily routine. So these all are the prerequisites for a good immunity. Now we are going to look at each one of them individually to see how we can help you all with your immunity. So first thing is proper diet and nutrition. And that means to try and follow a proper balanced diet. So if we look at it, I hope y'all are right now, everybody is at home, like at least the people who are at home, I'm sure y'all are having proper home cooked food, because that is one really good thing, that we're at home so we can at least take care of our diet in that way, and make sure that y'all are properly incorporating all the necessary nutrients that are required for us for our day-to-day living and for immunity. So I think even this has been circulating now for a long period of time as to what are the immunity boosting foods. So you all must have obviously heard of vitamin C and vitamin D. This everybody is talking about now, especially vitamin C has a lot of focus nowadays. But I recently attended a webinar which was conducted by a nutritionist. So this is very much taken like advice which is taken by a nutritionist also, so that this is very important to understand that we follow these things strictly. So what is the vitamin C rich food? You mainly have your green leafy vegetables, like broccoli has a very high content of vitamin C. Then you also have your citrus fruits. So after green leafy vegetables comes your citrus fruits like kiwi and oranges, which have a really high content of vitamin C. And lastly, the reason I have put this supplement here is because vitamin C is a water soluble vitamin. So we lose it through water every day. So what we need to do is make sure that you're supplementing yourself with vitamin C daily, because we tend to lose it from our body. And so these are the vitamin C rich food. Now let's look at the vitamin D rich food. Like you have your dairy products, then you have sunlight, which unfortunately these days we are not being able to experience because of the monsoon. But just try to increase your vitamin D intake through your diet because of that. Omega-3 fatty acid tablets that you get are a very good source of vitamin D as well. So this could help you for your daily requirement of vitamin D that is required. And even mushrooms are said to be a very good source of vitamin D. Now, you all must be wondering why I'm telling you all to have this. So, a lot of us have been realizing that vitamin C is good for immunity, and that's why we should take it. But what's actually happening is vitamin C and vitamin D both help you to improve the strength of your immune system by producing more immune cells in your body. So, a lot of these immune cells and chemicals are required to be released and produced in our body, which cannot happen unless you've not had these required vitamins that are required for it. So this is what we need to take care of. Hopefully you all are including this judiciously in your diet in the form of fruits, vegetables, and supplements as well. So the dietitian also suggested a lot of minerals that are also needed for immunity. So what are those minerals? You have your zinc, selenium, and iron. And it is very important that we try to integrate this in our day-to-day dietary intake. So how will we get this? So I'm sure now that everybody has started becoming a bit of a fitness freak, everybody is aware of these various fancy seeds which are available nowadays, like your sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, and flax seeds. So make sure that somewhere at least you all are incorporating these things in your day-to-day life. I know it is not easy to keep monitoring what you eat, because a lot of you might be busy with work, because some of you all might be going for work as well, which is why I've tried to find out at least certain things which will make it easy for you all to have it in your day-to-day lifestyle. Apart from this, as long as you all are having healthy home cooked meals, you all are already getting half of the nutrients from that. So please be rest assured, but make sure that you all are eating good food right now when you all are at home, and including these things right now. And I also want to say that since this is specifically the domain of nutritionists, I just thought I should tap on the main things that are required to improve your immunity. Apart from this, if people are looking for in detail advice of what you all could go for, then it's better you all contact a concerned nutritionist who will be able to guide you all better. So I have a friend who's a nutritionist, and she really recommended this. She calls it the immunity elixir, which I have been following since the start of lockdown. So I thought I'll share it with y'all, because you can just have it every day. Okay, so you're supposed to make this and have it every day for your vitamin C intake. So you take turmeric as well as black pepper and basil, ginger. You boil all these ingredients in water, and once it brings to a boil, you put it in a glass, squeeze in lemon lastly, and in this it's your choice whether you want to add salt in it or not. But Basically, these other ingredients which she has said are really beneficial for improving your immunity. And since I've been doing it, I thought I'll even share this with y'all because it's really useful to give you that little vitamin C boost every day in your diet in a very easy way. Okay. So I hope you all have understood the diet part of it because all of us have been following it now. And you all have understood the reason of why these vitamins and minerals help us to build our immunity by increasing the immune response in our body. Next, okay, now this is very important and one of the most underrated and underestimated medicines because the millennial generation tends to stay up for very unearthly hours. So I first want to ask y'all if y'all could nicely just type in for me in the chat box what time do y'all roughly sleep around? That is maybe 2 a.m., 12 a.m., whatever time y'all sleep at. If y'all could just write it, don't worry, I'm not going to pinpoint anybody in that, but I just need to have an idea as to how to redirect my conversation after that. So if all of y'all could just type in your sleep timings and please be honest in while typing in that. So could y'all please just type it in for me? The Yuvas I'm talking about specifically. Okay. I've got a few responses here. And only one person has said 10 p.m. to 11 p.m., whereas most of the others have said post 12 a.m. Okay. So now I'm going to say something that is going to help y'all in some way. And I hope it's a kind of an eye opener which makes y'all realize how important it is for y'all to maintain proper sleep timings. Okay. First, let's see what are the uses of sleeping well. I hope by doing this, y'all can understand what is going to help y'all better, why sleeping is important. So, important thing is to regulate your body clock even by sticking to a sleep schedule even on the weekends. Okay, we tend to take weekends very lightly, but this is about maintaining a proper timing throughout, like whether it is weekday or weekend. And of course, once in a while you can. I'm not saying that you have to just do this, but the thing is, if you, do this every day of your life, because there are a few times where we might have to stay up, but as far as possible, try to sleep at least by 12 a.m. So what does sleep do for us? It basically repairs and recovers up the body. That is, all the systems inside our body require you to sleep for those many number of hours because it has to heal and it has to recover rapidly. Next is, you remember the immune cells I spoke about in the last round where, the dietary restriction where you produce immune cells in your body. So once you have produced those immune cells, that is when you're taking the precursors which are required to do it, you require to even sleep well. So it's not going to be like, okay, I'm just having vitamin C and now I'm immune to anything that comes my way. You need to understand that if you're having a very good diet, but you're not sleeping properly, then you're actually preventing your body from producing those immune cells. So you have to make sure that you're sleeping well. Nowadays, so many mental health issues that are on the rise are mainly because we do not tend to sleep properly. Most of these anxiety issues and depression disorders that are happening to people these days are all related to stress. And the stress is happening because the people are not sleeping on time and maintaining proper sleep hours. Next is reduces the risk of heart disease and stroke. So if you must have heard nowadays in the news, we get to hear so many youngsters who are passing away, literally youngsters below 30 years of age are passing away because of a heart attack or because of stroke. Like I know a person who's gone through a stroke and we had rehabilitated that patient and he was below 30 years of age. So this is also nowadays becoming a very common thing in youngsters. So this could be one of the major reasons why it happens. And lastly is maintaining proper glucose metabolism in the body. So this is because when you sleep, your body produces the right amount of hormones which are required to prevent you from developing problems such as diabetes. So you need to understand there are so many important uses of sleeping well. So now it gives us some food for thought. Think whether we should literally reconsider switching our sleep timings to slightly earlier. So what is it? So imagine there is something called as a National Sleep Foundation, which actually has said that we have to sleep for a minimum of 7 to 9 hours. Now this is for the age group of 18 years of age to 64 years of age. They have nicely given a table on their website in which you can actually see different timings given for different age groups. So this will really help you. So this time from 7 to 9 hours is basically required for people from the age of 18 to 64. And they have also strictly said and highlighted that you have to avoid sleeping for less than 6 hours and more than 11 hours. So 7 to 9 is the optimum window of sleep that you should get. Less than that and more than that, both can be harmful for your health. So I think that makes us really wonder now that we really need to think about how important sleep is for us. And this is night sleep. Okay, so don't think that I'm going to sleep for 6 hours in the night and then I'm going to sleep for 3 hours during the day. That's not going to help you, because this is what a night sleep that is needed. The 7 to 9 hour duration is how much you need to sleep in the night for you to function better in your day-to-day activities. Thirdly, now all of us are doing some form of exercise, I'm hoping, because now it's lockdown and slowly people have become aware about the importance of fitness. So it could be any form of exercise. It could be Pilates, it could be aerobics, or it could be yoga, or there are various other forms of exercises, like you have your high intensity interval training as well. So many things which can be done at home these days. Um, Very good exercises would actually be jogging, cycling, running. But unfortunately, now because of the present situation, it's not really advisable for you to step outside, mainly because if you're running or jogging with a mask, a lot of recent articles that have shown a lot of people have passed away because of doing rigorous activity outside the house wearing a mask. So that could also cause certain problems to you, because obviously we don't want to wear a mask because the oxygen intake that is happening with the mask is not good. So you end up breathing in a lot of carbon dioxide, compromising your heart and your lungs of all that oxygen which is actually needed. So therefore, unless you all can maintain proper social distancing and you are going in a place where there's proper ventilation, that is air circulation that is happening, I feel it's better for you to exercise at home, because I feel it's becoming very crowded these days outside. So you also want to take care of the social distancing part. So there are a lot of exercises that you could do at home, as I've already mentioned some of them, and make sure that to include exercise every day in your routine, you have to choose something which makes you want to exercise more, because you have to make sure that you have to come back to that activity every day. So if you're going to choose something which doesn't interest you as a person, like for example, I know a lot of people who find yoga very boring. So then there are so many other things like dance, fitness, aerobics and all, which are coming up these days, where there are so many videos on YouTube. If you're a person who loves to dance, you could opt for something like that. So it makes you want to exercise every day, so you keep a time in the day for yourself, and 30 minutes to 1 hour preferably. So WHO says that you should exercise for at least 30 minutes every day. And if you're a beginner, at least exercise 3 to 4 times a day every day. I mean, 3 to 4 times a week. This is what WHO has given as the minimum number of days you should work out for. And if you're somebody who has already been working out, make sure that you're doing it at least 5 to 6 days a week, and give yourself that 1 day rest. So it shouldn't be that you're just exercising and you're not even letting your body recover, because that is also very important when you start exercising. Now let's see the benefits of exercise. So how does exercise help your immunity as well as other systems of your body? So first of all, now, if you remember, so I'm going in a stepwise order. You eat proper nutrition of vitamin C and vitamin D, which is required for the production of immune cells. Then you're sleeping well. So that is further enhancing the immunity by helping those cells get formed faster and in a better way. Third, exercise. So by exercising, you're increasing the blood circulation throughout your body. So what is happening is the immune systems which are being produced are getting circulated all over your body, so that you are well protected holistically, like throughout your human body. Also, you all must have heard of the feel good hormones or endorphins, which everybody talks about these days. So, endorphins make you feel happy, they make you feel stress free, and overall, I have seen that the days you exercise, you actually feel more productive, your mood is more uplifted, and you feel like doing much more in the day. Because as to days where you don't exercise, you actually end up feeling very lethargic, and it makes you really lazy and makes you be like a couch potato. So if you exercise, it really boosts your productivity to a very high level. Next is it, if you're right now, if you all are students and if you all are studying, if you all are even working from home, I know what happens is, because we're cooked up in the house from so many months now, there's no change of space, change of environment which is happening. So you're already, your attention is a bit affected, because it's at home, there are a lot of disturbances happening around. It's not like your normal office environment. So working out will also help you improve your attention and mood. So automatically, if your mood is very good that day, you want to work, you want to give in that little 100% of yourself at work when you're doing your work properly. So basically, it improves your efficiency and your productivity at work by improving your mood and attention. Now, this is cardiorespiratory endurance. So I have explained what it is. So this is mainly what your lungs and your heart, the amount of oxygen that is needed by it to sustain a physical activity. Now, if you see an easy example, climbing stairs, or if you go with your friend for a hike, okay, you all must have realized this, that if your fitness level is not at all good, whereas your friend has been someone who's worked out really well, it makes such a difference, right? The ascent, when you are going up the hill, it's so difficult for you, like you're literally gasping for breath, whereas your friend is literally waltzing their way through the mountain and reaching the summit and waiting for you, and they're literally searching for you to see where you are, because you're literally taking such tiny steps to get to the top. So this explains cardiorespiratory endurance very well. Your friend has been exercising throughout, so their respective, the oxygen and lung intake of oxygen has heart and lung intake of oxygen, sorry, is really good, as opposed to you who does not exercise and who's never been used to the concept of exercise and has always been like a couch potato. So it's very important for you to understand exercise helps in this as well. And lastly, it has a lot of amazing effects on the brain. So recently, a study was done where by a neuroscientist. I have given you the link in the next slide, and you should watch her TED talk. I don't know if you all have watched it, but you all should. She has spoken about how important exercise is in improving the certain areas of your brain which are needed for good health in the future, in terms of Alzheimer's and dementia. So these two diseases, happen when you age, right? So you must be having grandparents or great grandparents who must have started showing signs of dementia or Alzheimer's. So this exercise, which is there, it mainly acts and helps in the proliferation. That is, it increases the size of these two areas in the brain which are responsible for these neurodegenerative conditions. So if you exercise, mainly, I'll explain it in simple terms. You exercise, these two parts which are responsible, that increases in size, okay? And then what happens is you delay the process. So I'm not saying that you prevent the neurodegenerative diseases, because if it has to happen, if it's in your genes or if it's in your hereditary, you can't prevent it from happening, but you can definitely delay it. So if you are somebody to get Alzheimer's at 75, you prolong that period to about 80 or 85. So basically, it's increasing your years of living well and having a good quality of life. So basically, exercise not only has short-term effects for your immune system, it also has prolonged effects on your brain and various systems of the body. But again, this is when you exercise regularly each and every day of your life, of course, with those rest phases in between. So make sure that if y'all are not exercising right now, y'all at least start doing 30 minutes of exercise every day. And I'm sure y'all will feel a very good difference when y'all include this in your routine. So this was the TED talk I had watched, and it's a really nice video where she has explained how exercise will help you to prevent Alzheimer's and dementia, as in delay, sorry, not prevent. Okay, this is again very important, and we don't tend to do this. So engaging in some form of hobby you enjoy. So I know with work from home right now, it must be becoming really difficult for you all to demarcate timings for yourselves. But you have to consciously take out time. So for those of you whose work timings are really erratic, you can at least take out time over the weekends. Or maybe for those of you who are studying or who have online classes, if you all have time in between for about 1 hour or so, you can just take out time for you to do something which you enjoy. So something like dancing or painting, reading, gardening, or cooking a nice meal for yourself, which makes you happy. So basically, that is what is important. Okay, so why is it important? Because engaging in some form of hobby mainly reduces your stress. Okay, so by reducing your stress, it's basically improving your immunity, and I'll explain how. So in our body, we have this hormone called as cortisol, which increases to a very high extent when you're stressed. Now, in our human body, we don't need even a fraction of a second to be stressed, right? Nowadays, the biggest stressor on our heads right now is Corona, where we're wondering, oh my God, we can't go out. When is this going to end? When is the vaccine going to come? So you're already stressing about that. Then you're stressing even about your work at home. So imagine, so 1+1, you're adding on to your stress, okay? You're worried about COVID scenario already, plus you're worried about your work scenario, or for students, you're worried about your assignments or your school, everything coming online and you getting flustered because there's not only online school and college now, there is also additional online classes along with it. So much stress that is being added to your day-to-day life. So to de-stress, the best way is to engage in some form of hobby, at least even if you can find 30 minutes a day, if you don't find 1 hour a day, but it's important for you to bring that stress level down, because it's not good for you to take that stress. Now, when you stress a lot, this cortisol hormone, it increases. So what is happening is, the more the level of cortisol increases in your body, the lesser is your immunity. You're suppressing your immune system by increasing the cortisol level. So by reducing your cortisol level, by doing some form of happy thing which makes you feel very good, again, you're increasing the feel good hormones, that is endorphins, serotonin, you're increasing all those hormones and you're bringing down your cortisol. So basically, in short, you're making yourself happy and you're reducing your stress. So it is very, very important for you to understand that. I know it sounds very, yeah, I know she's telling us to dance, she's telling us to just paint, but the thing is, I have been doing this personally, and whatever I'm sharing with you all today is exactly what it really helps in your routine, because I have been trying this for the last 5 months now that we've been at home, and it's very important that you take out time. So basically, your hobby should be like you're taking out a little me time for yourself during the day, and it is very important, and we don't tend to do this. It's very, very important. Okay, so just make sure that you find what interests you the most and you at least take out 30 minutes a day to do that. Next is, okay, now coming to my part of breathing exercises. So you must have noticed in your day-to-day life, when you're working or when you're studying, you're very stressed, right? So you don't tend to pay that much attention to your breathing. Okay, we tend to do very shallow breathing. Our breath doesn't even reach, it doesn't fill up our lungs entirely. So sometimes what you need to do is you just need to sit down and you need to take in a deep breath. Okay, and I'll tell you how. So I'm going to talk today about two types of breathing exercises. You have your relaxed breathing exercise and you have your chest expansion exercise. So beginning with relaxed breathing. So I can't see y'all, but if y'all want to, and if y'all are sitting in a comfortable position, y'all can do it along with me. First, I will explain to y'all what is to be done, the inhaling and exhaling part. So you inhale, you take in a long deep breath through your nose, and then while you hold it there for 1 count, and when you exhale, you have to make an O with your lips. So just imagine you're holding a cup of tea in your hand and you want to cool it and it's very hot. That is what you're going to do. So I will just first show you all what it is. So you take a deep breath in, hold it for about 1 to 2 counts, and then you're going to blow it out through your lips in a very slow manner. Okay, now I hope you all have understood the breathing. So taking a long deep breath through the nose, staying there for 1 to 2 counts, and then you're going to make an O with your lips basically and blow out slowly. Now when you're doing this, you have to remember that when you take a deep breath inside, it has, suppose you take it in for 4 seconds, okay? Then you have to exhale out for 8 seconds. So it exactly has to be 1:2. So if I'm breathing in for 3 counts, I'll breathe out for 6 counts. If I'm breathing in for 4 counts, I'll breathe out for 8 counts. It has to be exactly twice that of the inhalation. Okay. Now the hand placement. So as given in this picture, you're going to place one hand on your chest and one hand on your tummy. Now you have to imagine that there's a balloon. Okay. In your tummy is like a balloon, and you're going to fill in all your air in that balloon. Okay. So take a deep breath through the nose and let the hand which is on your tummy move forward. So you fill in the air in your tummy, hold it for 1 to 2 counts, and now you'll blow it out. And when you blow it out, you realize that the hand which is on your tummy comes back inside. So it's literally like inflating and deflating a balloon, imagining that in your tummy. So what happens with this exercise is you're filling enough air into your lungs, and you're not just keeping it restricted to your upper zones of the lungs. It goes right till the lower zones of your lungs. Okay, so this is to improve your air entry. I have explained the exercise to you all over here. So step by step, in case you all want to do it ever, you all can refer to this. The next form of exercise is chest expansion exercise. So the breathing pattern remains the same. Only in this, your hand position will differ. So I will just show it to you all. So in this exercise, what I wanted to do is you all are sitting with an erect spine and your hands are placed on your lap. And what I wanted to do is when you take a deep breath in, while you're taking the deep breath in, you take your hands up straight, like how it is shown in part 1. Sorry. So what you're going to do is take a deep breath in, stay there for 1 to 2 counts, and then again blow out while coming down. Okay, so I hope you all have understood this. I will just show it again. When you breathe in, you take your hands straight up, stay there for 1 to 2 counts, and then you're going to come down while blowing out. Okay, the inhalation and the exhalation remains the same as the relaxed breathing exercise. Only your hand movement is what is important in this. And the other form of exercise is your hands are on the side of the body, and when you breathe in, you take it up from the side, stay there for 1 to 2 counts, and then bring your hands down while coming. You'll just have to take care of one aspect, is that when you're doing the exercise of taking your hands on the side, just make sure your palms are facing upwards. Okay, so your hands, I've shown a picture for that reason. You just have to face your palm towards the ceiling when you're taking it up and towards the floor when you're taking it down. Okay, now you all will wonder why I'm asking you all to do this exercise. So for this, you have to know one thing, is that our lungs are not only present anteriorly, okay, it's not only in the front, it's also on the side and it's also at the back. In fact, your back has the lower zones of the lungs, where when most of us suffer from problems like a lot of phlegm in the respiratory airways or cough that is there, it gets accumulated in your lower zones of the lungs. So by breathing with your hand movements, what you're doing is you're allowing your ribcage to expand as you're breathing. So as your ribcage expands, your lungs get more space to fill air inside it. Whereas in our day-to-day routine, you know that it's very hard. We don't pay that much attention to our breathing. It's very superficial. I'm sure like right now, most of us are we're not even realizing that our breathing is actually very superficial. So you have to understand that sometimes you can just incorporate this in your exercise because it has a lot of benefits. Again, I have just given the explanation for the same exercise, so you all can refer to it in case you all feel like doing it later. Now, why and how will this help you? So basically, it improves ventilation in the lungs, that is air entry in the lungs. So it gives you enough oxygen, gives your lung enough oxygen. And right now, we already know that, oxygenation in the blood, that is your oxygen content in the blood, to be of a certain level is very important, right? So you're just making sure that you're giving your body the oxygen that it requires by breathing in this way, by doing both these exercises. Actually 3 exercises, which is relaxed breathing, and this chest expansion has 2 parts. One is from your hands in the front and from the side. Next is if you breathe in properly. So effective breathing is necessary for you to produce an effective cough. So if there is any secretion in your airways which you want to remove, you have to make sure that you're breathing in sufficiently, only then can you take it out easily. So this also helps in clearance of any cough if it's there. Now, how we spoke about strength, so we spoke about endurance in terms of other muscles, right? In terms of the heart and the skeletal muscles, and how exercise helps you to improve that endurance. Even in your respiratory muscles, there is something called as strength and endurance. So by doing these breathing exercises regularly, now it could be either this, or whether you're somebody who practices pranayam, even that will really help you to keep up the strength and endurance of your respiratory muscles, which are attached to your rib cage. Then you also have your diaphragm. So these all respiratory muscles are important for your day-to-day breathing. So by doing these exercises, you're improving the strength of those respiratory muscles as well. And lastly, we all know how important breathing is for relaxation. So these exercises which I've taught you all are very simple. You have to sit comfortably in a chair while doing it. So what happened is then you can basically, it helps to relieve stress and it promotes relaxation. So even if you all are sitting at your work desks at home and you are really, bogged down with a lot of stress because of work pressure or because of a lot of assignment pressure or anything, you can just do these basic 2 breathing exercises in the chair when you're at, like literally your computer screen is in front of you, and you can just do this and just de-stress a little bit and get back to it. So this will help you to improve your lung capacity, these 3 exercises, which are really good and useful. And lastly, I cannot stress enough on the fact of meditation. So improves both physical and mental well-being, and very important in reducing stress, and helps us to be more positive and optimistic. So by meditating regularly, not only are you reducing your stress, but you're also, it helps you to look at everything in a very positive way, because already we're surrounded by so much negativity nowadays. We are reading so much negativity. There's so much going on around the world. We are listening to so many things through the news. So it really helps us to cut off from all that for some time and to just, go within and focus on what is good. And even Swamiji emphasizes so much on the importance of meditation on a day-to-day basis. So I preferably do it before going to bed. So you can either do it before that or when you just wake up in the morning. That's for you to decide when you feel like doing it. But preferably speaking, meditation is something which you need to do every day and at a time when it's convenient for you. And it's literally just 10 to 15 minutes of you closing your eyes. It could either be mantras up, it could be anything that you do every day. If you're doing something, it's really great, continue it. But this is for all those people, if you have not been doing it, or if you're, for some or the other reason, if you're too disturbed, then go back to meditation, because it really helps you to, get that peace of mind, and it really helps you to be positive. Okay. Now, basically in today's presentation, what I have mainly taught you all is to basically reduce stress and to increase these hormones. So remember the happy hormones I was talking about? This is what are the happy hormones. So you have dopamine, you have oxytocin, you have serotonin and endorphin. And they've very nicely given how each hormone is activated by which particular activity that you do. So by basically trying to focus on this is, if you're exercising, if you're doing your hobbies, if you're meditating, you're basically doing nothing but you're stimulating all these hormones to get produced in your body. So you're automatically increasing the happiness quotient that you will feel, and you'll automatically bring down the negative and the bad hormones like cortisol, which unnecessarily increases your stress and anxiety. So this is really nice, and you all can definitely refer to this chart whenever you all feel like. So dopamine, if you complete some task, reward yourself for it. Like give yourself, decide something, like I've completed this, so today I'm going to make something nice for myself. So, you set these incentives for yourself. So even when you're at home, you can make things very interesting for yourself. It's not, I think now we've actually got used to this new way of living, working from home. And so you have to find ways in which you can literally find happiness. Then eating food that you really love, celebrating little wins is for dopamine. And oxytocin, if you have a dog or a baby at home, I don't think you need more than that to make you happy. Holding hands with some, like your family members, going and hugging them, just sitting with them and talking. So one amazing thing about being at home right now is you actually get so much time with family as well, which we don't really get on normal basis. We only have to wait for weekends to get that. So enjoy that time with them. That'll help you raise your oxytocin level. Then serotonin, your meditation will help you, exercise will help you, and endorphin again, exercise. Also, a lot of people of like a lot of y'all who feel very stressed out can also do these things. These amazing oils that you get, you can maybe smell them, and you can so basically you get these amazing scented candles also, or you get oils. So it's for you to decide what you want, but that also helps you reduce your stress to a very large level. So you have to basically find, oh, by the way, one good news is even dark chocolate will help you increase your endorphins. So make sure you're having it in moderation, but there are many things you can do to be happy and to not stress. Okay. Now, lastly, coming to this part of the slide, which is really, I hope it interests you all, because it's about work from home, and I'm sure majority of y'all are doing that right now, whether it is studying or whether it is working. So, do you find yourself in any of these postures? Now, I can't see y'all or interact with y'all, but I'm going to be showing y'all 5 pictures now, and I want y'all to just go through it and maybe analyze in your minds itself what could be wrong with these postures, because some of it might seem right to y'all because y'all must be sitting that way, but all these 5 postures are wrong, let me tell you that. So just see and identify if you can find out what is wrong with these postures. So this is the first one, the second one, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, I'm going to give you all about 30 seconds before I start my analysis about what's wrong about this posture. If you all can just go through it and maybe even try to see where you all fit in right now so that you all could correct it. So just take your time to just go through this. Okay, now I will start telling you on my analysis about it. So if you see the first picture, in that the person is totally bent. Okay, look at the back, it's totally bent, and his laptop is not even in front of, like, it's not at eye level. Okay, so he actually has to bend down, he has to strain his neck to look at what's on the screen. So if you can actually see, his neck position is actually ahead, compared to his shoulders, you can actually see. So that's called as a forward head posture. And most of my patients that come to me with neck pain and all are mainly office going, basically desk job workers who come with neck and upper back problems mainly. So this could be one of the reasons. Now the second one is, even though the lady is sitting on a so-called ergonomic chair, but just see the way she's sitting, her back is not at all the way it's supposed to be aligned along with the back of the chair. But if you see, you can actually see that instead of maintaining a proper curvature for the back, she's actually bending ahead, not this way, but opposite of that person. So again, the spinal curves, we all have curves in our back, right? It goes this way. The lumbar curve is a C-shaped structure, but you see hers is a straight line. So even though she has such an amazing chair on which she can sit, she's not sitting properly. Then comes the third one. Now, if you see the chair, very bad. You see how she's sitting so erect. Now, you all must be thinking that she's sitting straight. So what is wrong with her posture? But if you actually look at her, if you sit this way, now, how long do you guys do work from home? You'll at least work from home for 9 to 10 hours, or sometimes I feel more than that as well. Now, just imagine if you're going to sit that way continuously for 8 to 9 hours or any number of hours that you work for. It's definitely going to take a toll on your back muscles. So this is also wrong basically. And also her laptop is also very low. So she's looking down, plus she's using a hand to talk on the phone. And just imagine, these sustained postures also are very responsible for causing most of your backaches and neck pains and everything that you all normally get day to day. Fourth one and fifth one, I hope none of y'all are working this way, because it's very important for y'all to be sitting on like either a dining table or somewhere where you're keeping the laptop in front of your eyes, and you're making sure that you're not sleeping on the bed while working. Now, even in the fourth and fifth position, although the fourth position looks very comfortable, that he supported his head and all very well, but it's really bad because inevitably he is training his neck muscles again to look into the screen, and this is not at all a good posture, because it's going to reduce your alertness. It's going to make you want to just keep your laptop aside and go to sleep. And your fifth picture is very, very wrong because his elbows and his arms are going to give way in no time. Also his neck, he's straining that way again in that forward head posture, which is again going to make him get pain. So I hope you all have analyzed if, and I'm hoping none of you all fall in this group of any of these categories. So now coming to what is the right posture to sit in. So all the previous pictures were mainly your wrong sitting postures of how you should not be sitting. And this one is basically how you should be sitting. So now I will tell you all how you all can modify it even at home. So if you do not have ergonomic chairs or the proper office chairs, I will give you all even that alternative how you all can sit. But basically sitting with your back, the curve should be along the chair of along the back of the chair that you're sitting with, okay? Make sure that the computer screen or the laptop screen should be at eye level. So in case, because most of us are using laptops these days, you can use maybe, little fat books, like thick books, which are there. You can stack them up one above the other, and you can keep your laptop on it for the table to make it at your eye level. And make sure that your chair is pushed into the table well inside so that you can rest your forearms on your table. If you see in the previous slide, I think except for the first picture, if you see the second picture and the third picture, none of their forearms are supported, right? So that is also very important when you're working. You have to support your arms, because if you do not support your forearms well, you're going to again get a lot of pressure from your shoulders and your neck, and you're finally going to end up with a lot of pain in your shoulder blades. So make sure that the forearms are properly supported on the table, and also your knees. A lot of us tend to bend our knees below the chair and sit, like bend both of them and sit. But don't sit that way. You have to sit, that proper angle is also shown. It has to be kept on some footrest, which is present below the table. That's the correct way of sitting. Otherwise, you're going to strain your knees as well. Because we don't realize it, but work from home goes on for so many hours that you're constantly putting all these joints at a very high risk of strain for a long period of time. So when you're sitting, make sure that you're sitting comfortably so that you're not compromising any of these joints and you're not causing pain anywhere. Now, if you're at home, if you all have these chairs, it's really good, because if you see, the back of the chair is really curved along the curves of the spine. So if you do not have this chair, don't worry, you all can just keep a pillow. Now in this is ideally a lumbar pillow which is kept, but even you all can use any normal pillow which you all have at home and place it horizontally exactly where it is shown, like so near your lower back. Basically that curve that is there at your lower back, you're just putting the pillow in that curve so that it's well supported, and at the same time you're even maintaining that curve of your back, okay? So just make sure that if the chair is not available, at least you're supporting your back properly, keeping your forearms. Again, in this, the forearms are not supported. So make sure that your forearms are properly supported on a table and you're typing with the laptop being at the level of your eyes. Apart from that, a few tips is, I hope you all are keeping yourselves hydrated, because you're supposed to drink at least 2.5 to 3 liters. So actually it's 3 liters. So try to target 3 liters so that you all will at least drink that much every day. Okay. Get up and take walks every 30 minutes. This is very important. I know that you all must be having time-bound deadlines for work and studies both, or your classes, but make sure that at least whenever you all can, if not every 30 minutes is what is ideally given, that you're supposed to get up and walk. But in case you all can't do that, at least make sure you all walk every 1 to 1.5 hours. You cannot sit at a stretch for so long, because studies have shown that being sedentary has a lot of bad effects on our body, okay? Because our body is used to be moving continuously. It is very important that you cannot, it's not good to be sedentary for that long. Sedentary is supposed to be like the new poison. Sitting and being sedentary is considered as a new poison of our millennial generation, because we are so used to being cooked up in one place or being couch potatoes, not used to going out, doing much of activity and things like that. And for all my friends who exercise and are working from home, there is a very bad news which says that if you all are exercising for 30 minutes to 1 hour a day, but you'll end up sitting for most of the number of hours your day, then even the number of hours you have worked out for, suppose you've worked out for 1 hour properly, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, is basically totally nullified because you're sitting for that long. So just imagine you must have done a very good workout for at least 1 hour, and just imagine that you're feeling like, yes, my body is benefited from it so much, but then you're going to go and you're going to sit for your work from home for like 9 to 10 hours continuously. Basically, the entire effect of your exercise is not going to be of any use. So make sure that even when you're sitting for work, you're getting up, either filling up your bottle or going to do something or the other, but 30 minutes, try to keep it as a target, to keep moving about. Also, every 30 minutes, apart from walking around, come some neck movements that you're supposed to do. Okay, neck movements, maybe you all don't need to do it for every 30 minutes, but anytime you all feel some sort of strain, or if you all feel you all are exerting for very long, basic movements like taking your neck up and straight, taking it down and straight, both the sides as well as this way. So each of these movements, if you just do it 10 times, whenever you feel, like any stiffness is starting to set in, or you're feeling like you're feeling tired in your neck muscles, just do these movements so that there's certain amount of blood circulation which keeps going to your muscles and you don't let them fatigue. Okay, lastly, every time you all feel this, you all can do certain stretches as well if you all are feeling a lot of strain when you're working. These are very simple stretches. I put pictures done by physios themselves so that the posture and all is correct. But just make sure that in the first exercise, you're holding the edge of your chair and you're taking your neck towards one side. You will feel a stretch here along your shoulder blade. Okay. You just have to make sure that the stretch is not too much. It should be a mild to moderate stretch. Okay. And do it, you hold it there for about slow 10 counts. So you can ideally maybe observe the clock and see the seconds hand. Stay there for 10 counts and come back. So repeat it 3 times on one side and then you do it 3 times on the other side. All the exercises you're going to hold for 10 counts. So this other one is taking your hands up straight and stretching them upwards with the help of your shoulder blades as well. Then in the front. So when you go in the front, I'm just going to turn my chair this way. So when you'll go in the front, let your upper back also arch this way so that you're stretching your upper back muscles as well. Okay. Then comes the next exercise where you're just turning this way on your chair so that you're just holding it for 10 counts, coming back, doing it 3 times on this side and then repeating it 3 times on the other side. Okay, so this is for your spinal rotator muscles. And last exercise is you're going to take your hands behind this way and then you're going to arch your back. So this last exercise is going to help your pectorals and it's also going to help your back muscles to stretch. So I have tried to cover all basic stretches of the neck, upper back as well as lower back muscles, which will help you all. So if you all have any doubts, you can ask me, but these are the few exercises which you all can definitely do at home. So my takeaway message for you all is say no to stress. So I already spoke about how you all have to not stress, try to keep your cortisol hormones as low as possible and say yes to a healthy lifestyle, because if you're going to be healthy and if you're going to do all the things that I've told you, you're automatically going to keep your happy hormones high. So that way there's no point of taking any stress. So I hope I have conveyed this message to you all nicely and I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. So thank you so much for listening to me so patiently and taking out your time on a Sunday evening. Thank you.
Wow, that was an amazing session, Urvi. First of all, I'd like to thank Param Pujya Swamiji for this opportunity. And thank you so much, Urvi. It was indeed a very insightful talk. Your take on breathing exercises gave me an all-new perspective. I'm sure we'll all imbibe the dietary suggestions given by you and at KADA also. And I'd like to express my appreciation towards the Chitrapur Yuvadhara office and others, including Swati Putli Pachi, without whom this wouldn't have been possible. And last but not the least, thank you all of you for being such an amazing audience. We'd like to see the same enthusiasm on 23rd for the Madhubani session as well. And now let us all conclude this session and bid farewell with Sabha concluding prayers. Om Nandantu Sadaka Sarve Vinashyantu Vidhushakaha Avastha Shambhavi Mesu Prasannostu Guru Sada सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात्. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So thank you all again and see you all for the next session.